I'm Darren Morton,
I'm Simon Matthews. This is Lift.
the lifestyle medicine podcast where we dive into the science of health and well-being.
Good afternoon, Professor Morton. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, and good morning to you.
Thank you very much. I've got a question for you.
Mm.
Do you still have your boat?
No, I sold my boat.
Oh, you sold yours too.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
okay.
got both of us.
We're
Not only do we not have a paddle, we're upstream without a boat.
we're desperate and boatless. So there was a period of time when coincidentally we both had boats, and they were both kind of similar in style.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, the selling of the boat is a story for another time. But I want you to cast your mind back to when you did have a boat, and there was a small wharf or jetty that you used to tie up to, not infrequently that you told me about, close to where you live. So here's my question for you. Apart from tying up boats, what else did you notice would happen on that jetty or wharf?
People would fish off it, jump off it.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that any place in the world there's a jetty or a wharf, people fish. I mean, those two activities just seem to go together. My eye was caught recently by a media report I saw about some wharf construction down south of Sydney, around Botany, La Perouse. So apparently, over the last couple of years, the New South Wales state government constructed 2 new wharves. I think one is at La Perouse and I think one is at Kurnell, with the intention of running a little ferry service between them. These wharves apparently cost $78 million to build, 76 million or something like that.
That's a good wharf.
Get this. There's not even a ferry service running between them now. So the wharves are finished, but there's no ferry service. Anyhow, that's not our focus for today. That's a story for another time. I cannot work out how it costs $78 million to build 2 wharves with the intention of running a ferry service, and then you don't have a ferry service.
I think for that amount of money, that one wharf should just link up with the other wharf, and you don't need a ferry for that kind of coin.
Yeah, a bridge. Anyhow, this whole story got me thinking, because one of the parts of the story was that in the absence of ferries, of course, people have found out about these new wharves. People interested in fishing, of course, as we've just said, have found out about the new wharves. People have been coming from all over Sydney to fish from these wharves, which is great, and that's a great community asset. A couple of months ago, New South Wales Fisheries, though, got a little bit frustrated and shared a social media post, which, among other things, said, "Keep this wharf clean, please. Fisheries officers and fish education officers have been visiting the new wharves at La Perouse and Kurnell, and it's great to see how many people are fishing. However, it's clear some fishers are not using common sense or doing the right thing. Fishers have been cutting bait on seating benches and handrails, not cleaning up after themselves. A reminder that these wharves are a shared space with other members of the public, and it's important to use these facilities responsibly. If you're chasing squid, please take a bucket with a rope and use a bucket of seawater to clean the squid ink off the concrete before it dries. Please do not use the seating or the handrails to prepare bait. Use a chopping board, a bucket lid, or flip your bucket upside down if it doesn't have a lid. etc., etc. Let's set an example and see how we can keep these great facilities clean. So this got me thinking and wondering about why I get. Well, let me ask you this question first, Darren.
Mm.
What seems to be missing from these wolves based on that social media post?
Well, I would say some human behaviour that is considerate of others, perhaps.
Maybe. What else?
To be honest, what my mind's going with is, and I digress very slightly for one moment, but one of my kids, when they were little, said, I want to go fishing. And I'm thinking, I don't know why, we don't even eat fish, but anyway. And we said, yeah, we said, okay then. And because we had a little creek down the back of our place, and there's a little jetty there, a little wharf. And so we gave them a roll of fishing line that we dug up from somewhere and some bread to tie on the end of it, and thought, just go have some fun with that. Anyway, like literally 90 seconds later, they're yelling out, got one! And we're like, what? And sure enough, and I remember him saying to me, fishing's easy. Anyway, it launched a thing within all of his buddies, and one of the other kids at the same age as him, a next door neighbour, he got into it as well. And then it progressed to they wanted proper bait. And so my good friend, my neighbour, Jim, his son saying, Dad, will you put this bait on for me? And it was squid, like you just mentioned. And it had gone off. And, I remember my friend, yeah, and he had it out to this side, and this side he's dry reaching. And he's doing, and I remember and the whole time I'm going, come on, Jim, do it for the kids. do it for the kids. Like, whoa! Anyway, so what else are they missing on this wharf where people are cutting? Maybe an area, maybe a little fishing. I've seen on some jetties, they have like a little area where you do this stuff, so you don't have to supply it yourself.
Exactly right. And that based on the content of the post, that seems to be entirely absent. The post doesn't say use the facilities we've already put there.
Right. It's like
the post says bring your own. Now, you and I both said at the start, or you said in particular, that the very first thing that came to your mind in relation to the use of a wharf is fishing. If you're going to spend $78 million,
yeah,
why would you not put in a couple of benches where you can cut bait and some bins and a bit of running water where you can wash the squid ink off and a couple other things like that? So this really got me. This got me thinking about the whole notion and the principle of the importance of context in behavioural change. And in one of the things that I'm fond of saying, particularly when I teach behavioural change, is coach the person in their context. In other words, when we engage in discussions about behavioural change, it's insufficient simply to work with someone to decide to engage in a particular different or new behaviour. It must be a different or new behaviour that fits within their context, and in which the context will support that. And if we fail to recognise those things, if we fail to recognise the contextual influence, then we often end up in situations where either the desired behaviour simply doesn't appear, and or the individual feels like they're failing because they're not able to produce the desired behaviour in that context.
A really subtle example, as you're explaining that, I remember when I was many years ago at university, we had a lecturer there who was interested in the design of environments to support people's, positive behaviours. And one thing, and it always stood out to me, and every time I see evidence of it, he pops into mind again. But that is, I'll be walking on a path, and I'll look, and there is actually on another path forged off the grass that goes off on an angle somewhere else, and where some designers have said, "Oh, we want people to walk down there and then across there to get to there," and everyone goes, "I'm not doing that. I can see it right there," and so they just cut across. And he would often talk about actually not putting paths down for a while until you see where people are naturally
see where people walk. Yeah, exactly.
Then pave that. So
yeah.
Is it a similar thing?
Absolutely, and this man is a master of observing the environment and observing the context, and then modifying that in a way that makes it easy for people to engage in the behaviour that you want. There's no point, for example, building a new park and planting expensive trees and flowers here, and here, if that's the pathway that people naturally follow to get from one place to the other. Better to observe that and then plant the trees and flowers in a way that people will be able to appreciate them as they move in the way they naturally want to. So we're seeing here with the wharf example, a great example of this. Everyone knows that people are going to fish from a wharf. I mean, that's just so I think obvious, and it really amazes me that there was no consideration given to building some straightforward infrastructure that would, first of all, both support that from an amenity perspective, so make it easier for people to appreciate that and enjoy it and engage in it, and secondly, make it easy to keep the area clean. And we can, in a behavioural change perspective, there's a couple of really useful theories that we can turn to support this. The first of those is possibly, at least in my mind, one of the most famous theories of the 20th century at least, and possibly ever. It's not E equals MC squared. It's B equals, you remember that function sign in mathematics? Looks like the long F. B equals a function of P times E. So this is a theory from the psychologist Kurt Lewin, Lewin, which says that a person's behaviour or a behaviour is a function of both the person and their environment. Beautifully elegant formula or theory, but it captures pretty much everything that we understand about human behaviour. Human behaviour doesn't occur in a vacuum. It's supported by the context. And of course, in this situation, the individual behaviour is being shaped by the environment. When the environment lacks the contextual nudges and the infrastructure to engage in the desired behaviour, people find ways of achieving what they still want to achieve anyway in other ways, and that of course leads to the sort of messiness that's being referred to in that social media post.
Yeah, what I like about that too, that behaviour is a function of the person and the environment, is it takes a little bit of the blame off the person in some regards. It's not like,
absolutely,
you know what, you're a bad person because you're doing this, or you're a lazy person because you're not doing that.
Absolutely, or you lack willpower, or you lack determination, or you've got no vision, or something like that. Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. And there are ways in which we can sometimes inadvertently, I think, place blame on individuals when really what's happening is we're not attending to those environmental and contextual factors. And there's even as I read that that social media post, a bit of that blaming comes through. It's clear some people are not using common sense. Please use these facilities responsibly. Do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this. No one wants your smelly bait here, there, and everywhere. Let's all show an example, which is really kind of a subtle way of saying you should show an example.
Yes. You're being irresponsible. Pull your stocks up. Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. And some really straightforward environmental modifications would, significantly influence that. And I'm not being Pollyanna-ish there. There will always be people, of course, who, who, for whatever reason, either deliberately or accidentally litter or don't clean up or something like that. But the idea of these things and that pathway example you gave is that we want most of the people to do mostly this most of the time.
Yes.
And when we can nudge things in that way, often we get great outcomes.
Yes, and you've used that word that I was going to say, that nudging idea. And I've read, some behaviour change theorists who have said that don't even worry about the person. They're too hard to change. Let's just modify the environment or engineer the environment so that people are forced to do, what you want them to do. What are your thoughts on that? Would you go that far?
Lift is supported by the Lift Project, an educational adventure where you learn science-based ways to lift your mood and your life. The Lift Project is lifting lives around the globe, in healthcare settings, workplaces, schools, universities and communities. To find out more, visit theliftproject.global.
Well, this is one of the central arguments in nudge theory, and in fact, it's one of the criticisms of nudging, that nudging has the potential. Some people say the potential to remove autonomy, and we end up making decisions based on a narrow set of values. So, for example, if you, I'm trying to think of a health-related example here that might illustrate this. If you place, actually, we can use the cigarette example. Cigarettes now, at least in Australia, are sold behind locked cupboards. So they're not visible. There's no artwork. There's no advertising, and so. Now, personally, I think this is good. But some people would say, well, we're removing an element of choice there, and we're making a moral decision about someone else's capacity to purchase something. And in fact, that nudge is making it more difficult for the person to engage in what's otherwise a lawful behaviour. Yeah. So I'm not unsympathetic to those arguments, and I do think that we need to be careful not to entirely remove choice. And at the same time, I think there are ways in which we can usefully construct the environment that prompt the majority of people to do a particular thing. Pedestrian crossings are an example. Pedestrian crossings appear periodically across a road. You might not be legally free, but you're physically free to cross the road at any other point. And most people don't. Most people cross at the pedestrian crossing. If you've ever say walked inside a railway station or something like that, you might have seen that there's a line running down the centre of where people walk with arrows pointing in opposite directions. There's another example. There's no requirement for you to walk on the side that has the arrow going in the direction you're going, but that's kind of what people tend to do. So in, some people might argue that we're minimising personal choice there, in kind of urging people towards that side of the path. I don't see it that way, but
no. Well, and I'm intrigued because you used a smoking example. I'm like, so you have to hide the cigarettes? Excellent idea. Like, and well, in Australia, I don't know in other parts of the world, but it's worse than that. If you pick up a pack of cigarettes, the images, they're graphic images that look horrific. These are pictures of, oral cancer and smoking kills is sort of the central theme on the pack. Do you think do some people argue that there's a problem with actually getting on the front foot and being very overt at discouraging certain choices and encouraging other ones? So
the problem arises when we start recognising that behind every decision to do anything lies a value, and in this particular example that we're talking about, I don't have a great problem or difficulty or challenge with the idea that we're making cigarette smoking, tobacco smoking a little bit harder. But here's the difficult thing: who decides which values get embedded in those nudges and which ones don't? So that's a challenge that we need to address as well. The other thing that's worth noting is that behavioural nudges alone are often insufficient, or are almost always insufficient to deal with the issue. So yes, this is probably having some impact, and my understanding, and I'm not a tobacco researcher, of course, but my understanding is that a lot of the efforts around modification of sale of tobacco are designed with two things in mind. The first thing is to prevent non-smokers from becoming smokers, and that's important. And the second thing is to shave a little bit off the bottom regularly of the smoking population. So every time you add $1 to the cost of a packet of cigarettes, there'll be some small percentage of people who, for whom it's no longer possible to afford, so they'll stop smoking. But here's the problem. And I know this from speaking to some physician colleagues in Australia. Australia now has, and I don't know the extent of it again because I'm not a tobacco researcher, Australia now has a massive black market problem with tobacco sales. So no, you can't buy them at the supermarket. We can't buy them easily at the supermarket. You can't buy them easily at the gas station. Yes, you have to be 18, et cetera, et cetera. And at the same time, over the last 25 to 30 years, this black market has grown enormously. So behavioural nudging, I think, can make a difference, and it's got to be accompanied by a whole bunch of other things, including education and shifts in policy over time that encourage that desired behaviour.
Yeah, certainly. I think that I always one of the funnest social campaigns that always intrigues me of how effective it was the inappropriate behaviour around trains. And you'll remember this one. I think it was Melbourne in Australia. they had this campaign where they put out this little catchy song called "Dumb Ways to Die." Do you remember? It's where if any of the listeners, if you haven't checked this out, just Google it. It's called "Dumb Ways to Die," and it's a very catchy little song, but basically it goes through all these ridiculous ways that people can die, like poke a grizzly bear and do these stupid things, and the graphics of it. So it's in a cartoon style. There's just this you can't look away because of and then at the end it just leaves it with. And you know what? Don't be an idiot around trains, kind of thing. Like, because that's a dumb way to die. Like, but that was a very effective campaign. And obviously it wasn't like they didn't or maybe they did put signs up there. I don't know. I wasn't in Melbourne at the time, but look, going back to that little behavioural formula of behaviour equals sort of person and environment. The environment didn't really change. I don't think it was very much just the people that they influence and their attitudinal response and obviously all the social norms and expectations that went along with that as well.
Exactly right. And this kind of points us to another theoretical construct that we can appeal to here, which is certainly one of my favourites, and I've written about it recently, and that's the idea of orders of change in systems thinking. So in systems theory, we essentially have three orders of change. First order change is a really straightforward behavioural change. So it's relatively simple to enact. And in health behaviour change, first order change is often as far as we get in thinking. And I've argued that in health behaviour change, we need to be doing much more than first order change. First order change is simply having someone do something different. So you're not currently doing push-ups. Now, it's pretty easy for you to get you to do push-ups because you enjoy exercise and activity and you enjoy being challenged. So if I said to you right now, do 10 push-ups, you would probably go, sure, I'll do that. If I said to you, do 1,000 push-ups now, then you might go, really? But if I incentivized you and said, I will give you $1 for every push-up you do, then I suspect you'd be back into it again. So that's first order change. I'm just getting you to do something different, but there's no kind of underlying shift to anything else. There's no shift to your values or beliefs. There's no shift to the environment around you. Nothing changes in the structure or the system around you. You're just doing a different behaviour for a period of time, and that's it.
And that probably aligns with that post for the wharf. Just clean up your mess.
Clean up your mess. Exactly right. Yeah. Clean up your mess. That's a first order change. That's exactly right. A second order change addresses part of the structure. So a second order change here might be signs and campaigns to keep the wharf clean. So big signs that say, wash your squid ink away, or bring your bucket with you, and again we can those things can be worded in a critical and somewhat punitive kind of way. So you can have signs that say, wash your squid ink away, fine $1,500 for not doing it, which is kind of critical and punitive. Or and I see this on the metros here in Madrid. There's signs about things like not playing your music too loud through your earbuds, not putting feet on seats, not putting bags on seats, and so on. But all of those things are on cartoon posters written in rhyming Spanish, and they talk about why, and the why is because we all use this together. This is a shared resource. This is for all of us. So it's still a second order change, but worded in a kind of friendly and engaging way. The third order change, of course, is thinking about how we make changes to the system and the structure itself. And this is where we get to ideas like, like I said before, if you're going to spend $78 million building a wharf, why not add a $200 bait cutting bench to it? Or let's go crazy and add 6 $200 bait cutting benches.
Yeah.
Why not add 10 $400 squid cleaning stations? Why not spend a couple $1,000s on plumbing with some recycled water or desalinated seawater or something that you can use just to wash stuff off, wash your fish, clean your fish. Why not have little chutes where you can take the guts out of your fish and drop it straight down the chute? It goes straight back in the water.
Well, I was thinking, that one that you just mentioned, I remember they have these donation machines where you could not just drop your coins in, but it was like a big funnel. Have you seen these things where you put the coin and the coin rolls around?
And it goes like that. Yeah.
And then it's like, and it's a great, I remember when my kids were young, it's like, Dad, can I have some more? It's like, yeah, okay. And in the end, and I thought, this is clever. I remember sitting there as I got released, thinking to myself, with my empty pockets now, that was well played. Whoever came up with that idea. So maybe even going really crazy and thinking of creative ways to make the new behaviour you want them to do fun. That would be
exactly right. And that's the third order change. Make the new behaviour easy to do, or make the desired behaviour easy for people to do, and reward people for that. When you approach an area of roadworks and there's a big sign that shows your speed, many of those signs, when you're under the speed, will give you a green smiley face, and when you go over the speed, they'll give you a red frowny face. So you're actually kind of engaging people at an emotional level too in doing that. There's not just a big sign up that says you must slow down to 40 kilometres an hour or less, and if you don't, you'll be fined $500. You reshape the environment that makes it engaging and interesting and even, dare I say, fun for people to do the thing that you want them to do. So there are some really significant lessons here for us in health behaviour change also, that simply telling people to do something different from what they're doing, it's a first order change and ignores the context. The second order change might be those signs, the campaigns. We might equate that with education in health behaviour change. Educating people about the benefits of doing something could be a health behaviour change. Reminding people of the importance of this, that's a second order change. But a third order change really engages in those longer, deeper conversations about, what's this experience like for you? What would you like this experience to feel like? What are ways, in your own, where you live and where you work, what are some ways in which you already have this experience, and how can we build on that or extend that, or in what ways might you be able to modify your own environment in order to experience that different that different thing, that different outcome. So think about the environment, and when I say that, I'm not talking about not littering. I'm talking about how can we design a context or an environment so that the desired behaviour is the easiest behaviour for the person to engage in.
Yes, and certainly not make the environment an impediment to that particular behaviour that you're aiming for.
Yeah.
Who would have thought we could learn so much about behaviour change from a ridiculously overpriced jetty?
Lift is presented by Simon Matthews and Darren Morton. It's sponsored by the Lift Project and supported by Avondale University. Music provided by Pixabay. If you have a question or a topic you would like to hear more about, send us an email to podcast@theliftproject.global. The Lift Project. Lift your mood, lift your life.